hypnosis, coaching, business, and more. Intriguing guests and experts, world-renowned speakers and personalities, open conversation and in-depth topics, straight to your screen or speaker. Let me introduce your host, Martin Castor.
Hi everyone, and welcome to a world premiere on the Mastery Through Passion podcast. And I'm really excited about today because I got an amazing guest ready for all of you. And there was no doubt when I wanted to set this up, I definitely wanted to have a chat with this amazing dude because he's freaking awesome. And I just want to introduce to all of you a good friend, amazing hypnotist, and this is Ken Guzzo. And hey, Ken. You're live.
Hey, Martin, how are you?
I'm perfectly okay. And by the way, hey, congratulations! You're on the premiere show of Mastery Through Passion podcast.
Thank you very much. I feel honored to be your very first guest, and I love your intro. You're really stepping up the podcast game. So congratulations to you for your.
I'm doing my best anyway. And, we go back all the way back to 2013. And let me share a story because you remember this pretty clear, I guess. I was invited to be part of the IHF Hypnosis Conference in San Pedro. Amazing place with the amazing Shelley Stockwell. She's a handful, but I mean that in a very positive way. She's the most heartwarm, laughing, amazing, excited lady that I know. And she's always up for a good laugh and some pranks and some stuff. And I didn't know what to expect from the conference. And yeah, I think I did the talk on the evening, this Saturday evening. I did the keynote. And for some reason, I sat there in a newly bought suit because my suitcases was lost on the plane. Had no clothes, so I had to drive out and find something last minute because I basically didn't want to go to the dinner because my suitcases were gone. But I got this suit,
I remember that.
And I sat there, and Shelley announced, hey, she's giving away awards that night. And she talked about this weird guy from Scandinavia, and I heard the name Martin Peterson, and I just sat there looking like, who the hell is from Scandinavia besides me? Didn't realize that I was getting an award. And Scott Sandland was there, you were there, and we were all called up on the stage receiving an award from the IHF. Amazing evening. But there was a little twist to it because Shelley, as always, had something up her sleeve. So to have fun through the dinner, between the tables, she actually asked you to dress up a little bit and or make some fun and comedy, right? So you were dressed up as
a clown making balloon animals.
exactly.
And I had no idea that I was getting an award either. And so
Nope.
I came up to get my prestigious Award of Excellence, and I was standing beside Martin Peterson and Scott Sandland and me in the middle in a clown suit with a big balloon hat. I felt so bad for you two.
Do you still have the picture?
Someone took the picture and it disappeared.
It disappeared, didn't it?
It did. I don't know who that was the person to make the photo disappear.
But it was an amazing beginning of a very good friendship, and you and I have been hanging out so many times ever since, and we even went on vacation together. But it's all built on this passion for hypnosis and helping people and just being genuine in what we do with our own passion. So that's why I rewarded you to have a nice shirt on today and no clown suit, and then kick off this world premiere podcast. Yeah. Let's go at it. We have a concept here, so we want to get moving, and we want to start with the first thing that we're going to talk about, and here we go. It's time! Oh yeah, it's time. It's you. Ken, let me know. Ken, why are you doing what you do today? All that hypnosis, why? You had a good job and everything. Why did you start doing hypnosis?
It's all for the money. No, that's not true. Well, I was, when I went into hypnosis, I already had a strong six-figure income in the technology sector in downtown San Francisco. And I wasn't actually looking to get into hypnosis or looking to change careers. But I came across a process that was supposed to be very effective in helping people quit smoking at the time. So my colleagues and I, there were 9 of us, went down to LA and got certified in this program. The trainer was out of England. And the training was actually not very good, to be perfectly honest. But there was some genius in what I was taught. But here was my hypnosis training. It was read this script really fast. That was day 1 of the training, and the other 4 days were on marketing, and the marketing was horrible. And that company went out of business within 6 months. But 2 days later, I was in Cabo for a wedding with my wife. My wife was pregnant with our first child, Sarah, and I was sitting by the pool going over my notes. And this woman asked me, "What are you doing?" And I explained that I'd just taken this course. Well, the next day, this other woman comes running up to me at the all-inclusive buffet and says, "I'm really sorry to bother you, but I understand you can help people quit smoking. And my husband and I are from Perth, Australia, and we really, really want to quit. And we would pay you. And I know you're on vacation, but please, can you help us?" And I was like, "Oh, crap." So I said, "Okay, it's $300 each. And I'll have this hotel staff slide some paperwork under your door, and I'll see you at 9, I'll see him at 10. And those were my first 2 clients. And really, I call her my hypnosis angel, because what she caused me to do was to take what I had learned in this course and apply it before the skills had atrophied. And I see so many people take trainings from wonderful hypnotists. Our community of hypnotists is very sharing. And there's a lot of wonderful trainers, and I see people take it and put it into action, and then I see people go, "Well, I'm going to wait. I'm going to go over my notes. I'm going to study this. I'm going to practice until I get really good, and then I'll put it into actual practice with clients." And that's totally the wrong mindset. I was forced to put it into action right away, and that probably changed my life. And I can keep going.
But did you actually switch job in fast, or was it through a longer process?
Well, once I'd helped those 2 people quit smoking, and to this day we are Facebook friends. That was in 2007. And to this day, every year on my birthday, on their birthday, I get this wonderful message. "Hey, you saved our lives. Thank you so much." And it's just warms my heart. But like I said, I was already had this 6-figure income in the technology sector. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to be there for the birth of my child. I wanted to be there for those precious moments while my wife was transitioning into motherhood. And I didn't want to miss it. So I quit my job while she was pregnant and we had the baby. I took 3 months off to be there for those moments. And then I opened the Bay Area Non-Smoking Center and jumped right in full-time helping people quit smoking. And I haven't looked back. I would love that I left the corporate culture and became an entrepreneur again to be in business for myself.
Wow, it's quite a jump, isn't it? So I'm thinking, what kind of concerns or things went through your head in that process where you took this big decision? Because clearly it's passion, and but you made this decision and you left your job because there was something, voice within your head or something saying, "I need to go and pursue this." What kind of concerns, what kind of thoughts did you have in that process?
Well, my thoughts were I wanted to help people. And I wanted to leave the corporate game because my MO was I would parachute into a disaster corporately, and within a few months get it humming, get everyone working together, get other departments working together where there were conflicts, and I would just parachute into disasters and get them working. But within about a year, my boss would think that I was after his job because I'd done such a wonderful job at making this work. And so it became an unpleasant experience because he was thinking I was after something that I wasn't. So I would end up leaving and going recreate the whole thing somewhere else. So one thing was I was looking to be in charge of my own destiny again, and which I love. And I don't think I'll ever go back to working for someone else again now that I have the freedom working for myself. The second concern was if I was going to jump in full time with a brand new baby and a pregnant wife and then a brand new baby, this needed to make money. I could not treat this as a hobby. I needed to jump in and treat my practice as a business, which is what all of us need to do. And some people, I see a lot of wonderful hypnotists out there that are really good at what they do, but it can be challenging to wear all the hats that are necessary to be a successful entrepreneur. Because you need to manage your own time. You need to be a salesperson. You need to be an advertiser. You need to be an accountant. You need to be all these things besides being a wonderful hypnotist. So in the courses that I teach, I start with the premise that hypnotists deserve to thrive. And it's okay that we make money. Sometimes when we're in the helping sector, our hearts go out to our clients. We want to help people, and it's okay to make money while you do it.
So if you should give out an advice for people who don't have the same courage as you did back then, is kind of like afraid of making that big step, is there anything you would actually say, like an advice of how to get going, how to actually make that change and go for it, go for the dream?
Well, yeah, there's a few things. You don't need to jump in full time. And probably for most people, I wouldn't necessarily advise it. That's kind of my MO, is to jump in and go full out. So if you got the confidence to do that, you have the financial backing to do that. I wasn't living paycheck to paycheck, so I had a cushion in case it did fail, which I'm so happy it didn't. But you don't need to jump in full time. Obviously, you can rent office space. There are places, I know in California, in the Oakland, Berkeley area where I was living, you could share an office with a masseuse or a psychologist or a chiropractor, and you could purchase the right to an office for Mondays, and you would pay $175, and you had the office on Mondays. Or you could go Mondays and Thursday evenings, and you could get those after work clients that the full-time people don't really want. We want to go home to our families every night. So there's the way you can do it part-time. You could do it just Saturdays and Friday evenings if you wanted. So you can start off with just 1 or 2 days a week, and get your clients focused into those time slots that you allow, and you can keep your costs very low. That's what I'd recommend to someone starting out. Make sure that anything you're spending money on to start are things that are going to make you money. So if you're going to do some advertising, that's a great way to get started. But you don't need to trick your office out with all the best furniture and all these expensive gadgets right away. Do things that will get you earning money.
Perfect.
And the last thing is, I would recommend.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
The last thing is, for someone getting started, I highly recommend that you specialize. A lot of hypnotists, they have a business card that lists every possible thing that you could be successful at with hypnosis. And because they want to cast a wide net, they don't want to lose any potential customers. And I'll tell you, that's the exact wrong strategy to follow, in my opinion, my one person's opinion. I say, pick something you're passionate about, become the very best at that one thing, and people will be at a path to your door. And then once they come in and they start seeing you for that one thing, I became 100% referral very quickly. And people say, hey, you helped me quit smoking. Can you help me with weight loss? Or my sister needs to lose weight, or my cousin has anxiety. Can you help with that? The answer is, of course. But I only ever advertised one thing, and that was smoking cessation. And I built a strong reputation first with my clients, and then in the hypnosis world as a smoking cessation specialist.
And that leads us straight into the next topic of this podcast. And here we go. So a thing I want to know about you, Ken, with all the experience you have, with all the things you've done, you specializing in this specific, smoke cessation craft or business as it is. What kind of story comes to mind that is something you want to share with the audience right now?
Well, I kind of already explained how I got started into it.
I know.
Once I got helping to people to quit smoking, I realized that there were some things that were problematic in what I was doing, and I wanted to create something that was brand new to enhance what I was doing, enhance my client experience, and increase my success rate. And what was happening was, from time to time, I'd get these emails. Ken, I was so mad at you. Oh, brother, what did I do? And it wasn't often, but it was enough that it was a pattern where they'd say, I was just about to tell my wife how I got ripped off for $600, and then I realized I forgot to smoke all the way home. And then they go on to say, and then the next day I forgot to smoke with my coffee, and I forgot to smoke on the way to work. So what was common, again, these weren't frequent, but they were frequent enough that it was a pattern. What was common in all of them was they weren't sure that something had actually happened in the room. Because I was taught to read a script, I was using progressive relaxation. I had them close their eyes and I talked to them for a half an hour, and then I emerged them and send them on their way. And there was no hypnotic phenomenon. There was no impact happening in the room to assure that client that something had to change. The second thing that was common in each of them was they were looking for something out there to prove to them that something happened in here. So I wanted to create a process where I incorporate the body, where while I'm giving these hypnotic suggestions, I'm actually using some tapping protocols. At that time, back in 2006 or 2007, I wasn't aware of anybody that was combining tapping with hypnosis. And I think they dovetail as well together as NLP and hypnosis. And nowadays, there's lots of people doing it. But when I first started doing that, people were fascinated by the concept of it. And so I was incorporating the body. So I have it's now called the Guzzo protocol. I was resistant to naming it after myself for many years. Shelley Stockwell, our friend, said, "Name it after yourself. You gotta brand it." And I'm like, no. I just called it the neurological process. And then finally, I offered it as a standalone product at a HypnoThoughts maybe 4 years ago, and I named it the Guzzo protocol. But what it is, it creates impact during the session. There's a greeting where you immediately the client, even if they've been to a hypnotist before, they realize this is something powerful is happening here. Things are happening in my body that I can't explain. And even if they've been to a hypnotist before, they've never experienced anything like this. So rather than them gradually getting buy-in through the pre-talk, I've got that instant impact. My credibility is up with them. The belief in themselves, all that nervous energy they walked in with is all dissipated. Within 2 to 3 minutes, I've accomplished 12 things, 12 objectives. And we take all that into the pre-talk. So the client's actually leaning in saying, okay, I'm in. I'm not crossing my arms saying, okay, impress me. They're actually all in. Now they're receptive to all the hypnosis that's happening during the pre-talk. And then the second part of the Guzzo protocol is post-pre-talk, where I, again, use the body to clear the issue that they come in to see me for. I clear it from their nervous system on a cellular level. So what happens is the client knows that the problem has been eliminated, and they realize that before they sit in the chair for the hypnosis. So what does that do? Causes the hypnosis to work even better. They're not worried about if they're going to get hypnotized or not. They're not going to worry about if it's going to work for them or not. They already know the problem solved. They just relax into the hypnosis session, and it just deepens their experience even further. So that's what I created, and I wanted to utilize the body while I was working with their unconscious mind. So there's a tapping layer. There's a hypnotic layer using the physicality of their body. In other words, I'm using loss of equilibrium and overload, and utilizing their body on a hypnotic level. Because when you think about it, when we use hypnosis using words, and some of us are very conscious of the words we use, and the words are powerful, but the brain needs to interpret those words. It's just vibration, right? And we interpret that, give meaning to those vibrations, to those sound waves, and then the brain interprets it and creates emotion, which causes the hypnosis to happen. Well, when I'm working with their body physically, I'm going directly through their nervous system to the unconscious mind as it extends throughout the nervous system. So then obviously I've got the hypnotic languaging as a third layer, and then I'm utilizing the neuroplasticity of their system for an even fourth layer or fourth dimension, and that's all happening simultaneously in the 10-minute process.
It's really amazing. And one thing I was thinking about while you said all of this is, it sounds like there's a lot of groundwork, there's a lot of research, there's a lot of doing a little bit of this and that, and get all those client experiences to finally in the end have a great product or great technique, a great protocol. And as well as I from our business, a lot of people basically some people just go to conferences, listen to others, copy and paste all this stuff, but this is passion on a different level. This is you doing your best, putting all the best stuff together and figuring out what is the best blueprint for getting a good result. So how much time do you spend, just think about it, how much time did you spend to actually put all of this together, and how did you come up with the package as it is right now?
Well, what you're saying is absolutely true, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend that people do it the way I did. But what happened for me was I became a hypnotist, and I was working in complete isolation for my first 4 or 5 years. Wow. So it's a blessing and it's a curse at the same time. Today we have these wonderful conferences, as you were mentioning, and have the best trainers in the world that can share their ideas and concepts. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, but you can benefit from their experience. And I didn't have that, so I highly recommend people. You don't need to reinvent the wheel necessarily, but I was working in complete isolation. I didn't know another hypnotist. And then one day, about 4 or 5 years into my career, I called up Shelley Stockwell and I said, hey, I have a certificate on my wall that says I'm a member of your organization. I'd love to come up to one of your conferences, and maybe I should take a hypnosis course. Because what I'd done for those first 4 or 5 years was learn from my clients. And it's hard for me to define how much time it took, because it was every client. And I was learning all the nuances of smoking cessation, because I was seeing everyone that I saw was for smoking only. And I learned everything that could be an issue, the excuses that come up, the resistance that comes up, the needs of those clients. So what I did was I started by, I think it's important that you know who your clients are. So smokers aren't necessarily new agey. They're not necessarily health conscious. They're not necessarily open to new forms of wellness. Most of the clients that came to see me, it was their last resort. They'd tried everything else. They tried the patches, the pills, the gums, and all those things. So when they got to me, I wanted to be very credible. So I was in a suit every day, in a suit and tie, at a professional office with reception. I had a professional looking website, and I wanted to meet those clients starting from where they were. Most of them were middle-aged conservative men. And that's who was showing up. It wasn't always that, but that's the majority of my clients. So I wanted to, once I built my reputation, now I wear whatever that guy want, but in those initial days, I was thinking, who's my client and how do I need to show up to communicate to them, for them to feel confident and safe and reassured that I have the credibility that can take them where they want to go.
Wow. And one more question in this segment that you made me thinking a little bit, because you made the transition from seeing clients every single day, and I know you enjoyed it, or still do, but you transitioned into teaching, putting stuff together, like your protocols, your ideas, and motivating other hypnotists in this world, how important is it, in your opinion, still having your hands deep into the pile of clients, dealing with them as often as possible, to be still maintain good leadership and still being a good teacher? Because I guess they will actually go hand in hand, I guess, somehow.
Yes, I see a lot of I see some hypnotists that the transition from client work to teaching, and that's fine. But for me personally, the client work is where the innovation happens. That's where I keep my perspective. That's where the ideas come. Like a brand new idea will come to me from my clients. My clients are my greatest teachers, and I'll be doing the same thing for years, and then one day something just will shift slightly. I go, oh, this is brilliant, and why haven't I been doing this? And I'll make that shift to adding to what I do. So I highly recommend that we keep our grounding in the client work. I think it's crucial.
It's very important, and I think you're spot on with that. And you know what time it is? It's actually time to talk business. Oh yeah, it's business time. So Ken, I know you got a great business. You run it pretty tight, and we got the it's all referral right now. I want you to share some stuff about your business. How do you run your business? Is there any inside secrets? Is there anything like, hey, you need to do it this way because then you know you're efficient and you can see all the clients you want to see, but it's still, it's worth all of it because it's getting paid pretty good. Whatever. What is actually your business protocol or your business setup?
Well, my business protocol has evolved over time, and obviously, when someone's starting out brand new, they have different needs and different priorities than when someone's established, like I am now. So, if I were to go back in time, what I started out doing was when I opened my doors, I rented for $500 a month. I rented a one-room office in a house. It was the basement was all converted to professional offices, is all psychologists mostly, and then the upstairs was also all psychologists, and then this Italian man lived in the middle floor, and it was right close to the transit station, the BART station for San Francisco area. And so I liked that it was easy for people to get to by car or by transit, and so I picked a good location, and I also decided I need to advertise, need to get the word out. So I started off with a picture ad on the back page of the East Bay Express, little 16th of a page picture ad. And for those of you, I'm sure most of you have free newspapers in your area. This was one of those free types of newspapers. I was on the back page. It was me, the hookers, and the marijuana dispensaries. And me. So it was a good company.
Fighting
but the phone started
on
ringing
the back page.
on the back page. Yeah, our businesses complemented each other. There was no competition. I was the only hypnotist. But the phone rang, and I had a full calendar. And from Monday to Friday, 9 hours a day, I helped people quit smoking. And in the beginning, a third of my clients would no-show me. And it was really frustrating because back then, there was no PayPal. There were no merchant accounts would not accept hypnotists because they figured we were flaky and we'd get a lot of chargebacks. So no one wanted to accept a hypnotist. And so I couldn't get a deposit from people. A few years later, once I was able to get deposits, always take full payment or a deposit. Have a PayPal button, or you can use Square, or there's so many that you can use these days, and they're essentially free except for the small fee that you pay, about 3%. So get one of those so you can get a deposit or full payment prior to your session. So that's something I highly recommend, and that's the most compassionate thing, because once people have some skin in the game, nobody no-shows. Okay, so that's one thing. Working full time, jumping in full time was actually I accumulated a client base rather quickly, thousands of clients, but I started to burn out. Within 3 or 4 years, I actually started losing my voice. And I started pushing clients through the process, and I'd lost that authentic connection to my clients. So I restructured everything. I started charging more, and I reversed my work week. I see clients 2 days a week, but I charge $700 per client. And I started using technology. I put my pre-talk onto a video, and so that I could start saving my voice. And it didn't hurt my success rate. As a matter of fact, I think it increased my success rate, because now I could focus. When I was focused with my client, I was 100% authentically connected with that client. For whenever I'm in front of the client, we are genuinely connected. And I think that's, from a business standpoint, I could teach you marketing techniques and how to do Google ads and things like this, but it doesn't matter how you market. If you don't have a genuine, authentic connection with your clients, it doesn't matter how much you market yourself. You're going to be spending more money on almost all of your money on marketing, and that's not going to be very profitable, because you need to be building toward being a 100% referral. That's what my goal was from the very beginning. I've been now 100% referral for 8 years. And
Wow.
How do I do that? Start off by having a kick-ass success rate. I have a 95% success rate. If you have a 50 to 70% success rate, there's no way you could be 100% referral, because you'll get a referral, maybe two, and then that chain will end because it'll be a failure. And you need to be success. You need to have like 10, 20 in a row if you want to have this thing take on a life of its own and become 100% referral. So 90 to 95% success rate is really important. That's another reason why I recommend you specialize. Become the very best at one thing, and people will beat a path to your door. The next thing, go ahead, Martin.
Okay. Yeah. Well, my question was, because referrals definitely makes a big difference. Same thing as testimonials on a website, right? So, what is your, how do you balance like going advertising places with just your name on it, or just utilize the people you already seen and their good name and their good reputation and them sharing all the amazing experiences they had at your office? What is the balance between those? How do you market that? How do you advertise?
Well, I don't advertise for the last 8 years, so I don't advertise. Although you could say that PayPal. That's not PayPal. Sorry, Yelp. It advertises for me, but I don't pay for Yelp. Those are my previous clients telling their stories and sharing. So that I call that 100% referral. But in the beginning, I did need to advertise, and because after about 1 year, the print ad stopped working. I think I'd taken all the low hanging fruit off of that, and I needed to make a decision. Do I continue on as a hypnotist, or do I go back to corporate? And I decided to double down, and I went into radio. Radio is very expensive, and you need to have a skill for it. And I didn't know if I had or not, because I'd never done radio. But I started creating my 60-second radio spots, and the phone just started ringing, and that's what sustained me for the next 4 or 5 years. But I would spend sometimes between $6,000 and $10,000 or $12,000 a month on radio. So I needed to be full time at that time, and that's when I started burning out. Most of the money I made went back into advertising. I was making decent money, but I was reinvesting it all back in the business. What happened was, just after we had our second child, we moved from the Bay Area to the Sacramento area, and both of us thought, my wife and I, that if I stopped advertising in the Bay Area, it'll peter out quickly, and then I can focus in on Sacramento and rebuild what I started. Well, a fascinating thing happened. It never petered out. My wife's actually upset with me because I still commute to the Bay Area to see clients. I see clients in 2 cities, Bay Area and Sacramento. But I keep going back. It doesn't matter how many days I make available in the Bay Area, I'm booked up at least a month in advance. And that's just all 100% referral. So I earn $5,000 to $6,000 per week free money on referral. And it's just all I have to do. They book online, they pay online, I just show up. And the reason for that is the authentic connection I have with my clients, the impact that the sessions have with clients, so they become enthusiastic referrers. They want to share their experience with others, and structuring the session so that at the end I'm not trying to pull something from the client at the end. Some people at the end, the client's in a blissed out state, they feel great. They say, okay, who do you know that could benefit from this service? Who else do you know who smokes? Who else do you know that could lose weight? And they want to write down names and phone numbers. That's kind of sliming the client when they're in such a wonderful state. They're trying to pull something from the client. At the end of my sessions, the client is still in a hypnotic state, and I want to make sure that my emphasis is on continuing to give to my client. So would you like to hear what I say to them at the end?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So at the end of end of the session, the client emerges, they're feeling great. They know that when I future pace out and I do all those things, then I'll say to them as we're leaving, as you know, my business is 100% referral. The only way it exists is not for you to give me referrals. The only way it exists is for you to be successful. That's all that matters. Go be free and enjoy this. Then after a while, let someone know how easy it was. Each time you refer someone to me, you get a free relaxation session. It's my gift to you to say thank you. And your name goes in for a draw for a nice dinner for two somewhere. I give away one per quarter, and your name stays in for all 4 draws. And so you win, the person you refer wins because they smell better, feel better, add years to their life. And I win because I keep getting to do what I love. And they say, absolutely. And I say, well, here's a few cards. And thank you in advance for anyone you share this with. And lastly, I always like to have a face to go with a name. Can I get a picture from my file? And they say, of course. And I stand them in front of the wall of fame, which I've got just out in the hallway over here. And it's a bunch of Yelp reviews. And I take their photo, and I don't do a thing with that photo. I just keep it and store it until such time that they write a 5-star review for me, or they give me some sort of testimonial, and then I take that off the whatever website they put it on, Google or Yelp, and I put it on my website with their photo of the day that they became a non-smoker. So those are some of the things that I do to build a 100% referral practice.
Great strategy. I love that setup because it's genuine, but it's all built on results. So it's perfect. All right, so we got another segment coming up. Ken, you better buckle up for this one. We're gonna go for the 5 quick ones now. And you might wonder what 5 quick ones are, but it's actually 5 fast questions for Ken, my guest today. And Ken, what it's gonna be all about is actually me asking a quick question, and I just want you to answer it top of your head right as fast as possible, no long in depth, but just what seems right in the very moment. So I hope you're with me on this one, right? So first of all, number 1, what is your definition of hypnosis?
My definition of hypnosis, created about 6 or 7 years ago, is hypnosis is a calm and peaceful state of being where one has an open flow of communication to and from the greatest part of self and ability. Wow.
I love that one. Okay.
Thank you.
Number 2.
And let me give you one more. The definition of hypnotherapy, I got to read this off. Hypnotherapy is giving yourself or another administrative access to clear from your system faulty programming, registry errors, and viruses, and to re-experience how awesome your firmware ran when you were fresh out of the box.
I love that one too. So question number 2. What has been your biggest challenge when it comes to hypnosis, and how did you overcome it?
My biggest challenge was something that I mentioned earlier, where I started to burn out, and I was losing my voice. I was not enjoying it anymore. I was putting in too many hours, and what I did was I raised my prices and shifted my practice to 2 days a week. Now I've got 5 days to work on other things, do a video or podcast with you, or take a training or give a training, be more with my family, work on my book. I've got freedom to do more diverse things, so that when I'm with the client can tell if you're fresh and on purpose and genuinely rooting for that client to achieve the result that they came for. The client can tell if you're all in or if you're going through the motions. So that was the biggest and I got a bad review. That was 2013. I got a bad review on Yelp, and I was so indignant. How dare you? I'm not selling burgers here. I'm saving people's lives. So you could discourage someone from coming to see me because of your bad review. And I went, oh my God, what's wrong with me? That's not who I am. And I realized I needed to get back into my rhythm of who I am when I'm with clients. So that was the biggest thing.
Question number 3. What is your most amazing moment personally when it comes to hypnosis?
Ooh,
Yeah.
I facilitate a process that I call Prime Potential, and I work with people with serious addictions. And there was recently a woman who came to see me they put down for smoking cessation, her and her husband. And this woman came in, and she was largely overweight, and she, anyway, the husband and her said, we're not actually here for quit smoking, we're here for stop drinking. And I said, oh wow, well, we need to set up I have a different process. So I explained it. It's 4 sessions over 3 months, and we set up a time for her to come back in, and I had some homework for her to do. And the day of the appointment, I got this message from her saying, we're coming, don't listen to what he said, we're coming. And I phoned, and anyway, what happened was she'd not been drinking for a few days and then the night before our appointment, she'd gone on a binge, and she crashed her car into another car, and then fled the scene of the crime. And the police showed up the next day, and somehow he was able to reduce not let them know that she'd been drinking, and they didn't arrest her, but she could have been in big trouble. And he said, I'm not gonna take you to this appointment. You went on this big binge. I explained to him, I said, sometimes when people are this close to actually solving a problem, their system that wants to keep in place will find a way to sabotage it. And he said, I never thought of it that way. He said, okay, so we rebooked for the following week. And then that morning, she's like, I don't want to go. And he said, you're going. And he pushed her in her nightgown, a threadbare nightgown with holes in it, into the car, and started driving down the highway for 2 hours to come and see me. And she was screaming the whole way, I want out, I need a drink, I need a drink. He actually eventually pulled over to a gas station so that she could go into the AM/PM and get a couple of vodka coolers and keep driving. So she showed up at my office in a nightgown with 2 vodka coolers in her, and he looks at me and says, fix her, and walks out.
Wow.
She's trembling. She doesn't want to be there. That's my client. And I knew I needed to meet her where she was. So anyway, just to shortcut it, this is supposed to be a rapid round. Sorry, this is a longer answer, but the most amazing thing happened that day because we did the session together, and she transformed, and she cleared what was in the way of her being her authentic self. And we cleared I didn't work on the addiction directly. I worked on the engine driving the addictive behavior, and which went into her childhood. And when we cleared the problem from her system, she transformed, and she came back to life, and there was a glow about her, and she stopped drinking that day. And that's a wonderful moment that I remember, one of many.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that. That's amazing. Question number 4. How do you find inspiration to do what you do, or what inspires you the most?
What inspires me the most are my friends, good friends like you, Martin.
Thank you.
And Jason Lynette, Scott Sandlin, and there's so many. I don't even feel like I want to name because I'll leave so many out. But the community of experts in our profession inspire me. I feel, especially for having worked in isolation for the first half of my career, having this community that I have friends all over the world. We can bounce ideas off of each other. We're very generous in sharing with each other. The community inspires me. I love the work that I do. I don't think I'll ever retire, and I love our community so much. I feel so blessed to be part of this. And that starts with you.
I hear you. Yeah. Feel the same way. Last question. What is your true passion?
My true passion is living a life where I can help others and living a life where I have the freedom to do what I want with where I want with who I want. So it's being in service to others and having the freedom to live my life on my terms.
Wow. And we're getting close to the end, so we got one more thing coming up for you, Ken. It's the happy
I expect
ending.
no less.
And people might think whatever they do, but the happy ending to me is actually, I want to ask you a couple of questions. Well, actually, I just want to ask you to share something, because the happy ending for me is actually all about giving back to the audience, because I know you got an archives of experiences. You got some good wisdom, you got good insights, you shared a lot of stuff with your business, your passion and all of that. So this is the time to give back. The happy ending of the podcast. So whatever pops up in your mind right now of advice, insights, small techniques or whatever, so everybody listening or watching even, they could be inspired to go change their lives. So this is happy ending.
Okay, I got a couple of ideas that I'd like to share that I think are really important. The first is something that I teach in every class that I teach now, and it has to do with that authentic connection. So before I begin a session, and this is what I teach with my classes as well, I go within myself into a place of unconditional love. And for me, I connect with my son Xander, who's 8 years old, who still loves to be tickled, and says, "Come snuggle with me, Daddy." So I'm on borrowed time with him, and that's my go-to. And maybe someday it'll be something else, but that's my go-to. So, but if it's not a person, it should be someone you're not romantically involved with or wish to be, because A, that ain't unconditional, and B, that's not obviously not the type of energy we want to be shining into the client. But think of a grandfather or grandmother type of love. And if it's not a person, maybe it's a pet that you feel unconditional love for. And if it's not a pet, maybe it's a place that causes you to feel serene and calm. Whatever it is, connect with that place or that pet or that person. And then I shine that out into my client. I'm already in unconditional love before the client walks into the door. So I don't see the client as the problem, the smoker, the weight loss person. I'm not connected with their problem. I'm connected to the human being that is the authentic person underneath the pattern that we're going to clear away. Okay, so that authentic connection, that's first and foremost. It's the foundation upon which everything else I do is built. And then another thing, I'm going to give you a technique that you can use, whoever's watching. And this is, I see a lot of times hypnotists begin working with a client and they're not working on the real problem. They're working on the symptom. And, I see, someone says, I say, what's your issue you want help with? And someone says procrastination. I would never let someone get away with that. Okay, it's the procrastination is not the issue. That's the symptom that's showing up. So what I do is, if there's time, I'll show you the whole thing. But I'll just ask a few questions. I say, what's the worst thing about procrastination or whatever the issue is? What's the worst thing about that? And they'll go, and they'll give you an answer. I say, what's the worst thing about that? And they might say, I'm wasting a lot of time. What's the worst thing about that? Well, I don't get to be productive. What's the worst thing about not being productive? And you ask, and you keep going deeper and deeper, and lo and behold, you get to the real heart of the matter, something that's really close to their identity. And I've got a short video clip that I show on when I did the Platinum, HT Platinum in San Diego. I showed a client who started out with the issue procrastination and just asking a few questions that ended up, the problem was the utter emptiness of their life. If they had go through their entire life without achieving what they want with their family, they would feel this utter emptiness of life, that they had failed. I said, failed at that one thing? No, failed at everything. So now their neural network is lit up with the emotion of the real problem. And then I begin the work. But we want to make sure that the actual problem is lit up first. And then I ask them, well, what is it you actually want? That's the way it's been. How would you like to be different? And they'll tell me, and sometimes that'll be lit up, but sometimes they, well, what's the best thing about that? What's the best thing about that? What's the best thing about that? And again, until their whole neural network is lit up, like, yeah, if I had that, I'd have, and it's like, not how do you want it to be different? How do you want to be different? Because sometimes when you ask how do you want it to be different, they'll give you something external. Well, I want my wife to stop nagging me. Well, she's not here. We can't fix that. But how do you want to be different in facing your wife nagging? Like, how do you want to be different? Well, I want to be more forgiving. I want things to flow off my back and not to stick to me. Okay, great. And we just light up that. So those are the two easy ones. The worst thing about keeping the problem, the best thing about what you really want. But there's two other quadrants. And what'd be the worst thing about actually getting what you want? Because that's a whole nother issue. And that will identify what the governor is. Sometimes people hold themselves back because they're actually afraid of success. So I want to light up that as well. And then even the other quadrant is, what would be the best thing about keeping the problem in place? Because that'll give you secondary gain. What's the secondary gain for keeping the problem in place, right? So when I nuance all four of those, the person's system tilts. Then I'll ask a question that will kind of put them into confusion, because so you're telling me you actually want to lose all this weight, but if you lose the weight, you lose all your freedom, and your freedom is actually eating the food that you want when you want. Like I'll just explain how they just explained it to me, and it just blows up the whole thing. Their network says, what? And all of a sudden they lose their death grip they have on their problem. They actually are willing to release it and let it go for a few seconds, and then we can dive in and start doing the work. So it's four quadrants, but the main thing that I teach, I do frequently, is just identifying the real problem, because the client will not necessarily have that sussed out for themselves.
Awesome.
Drop the mic. Boom.
Yeah, boom. We are very close to the end right now, Ken. So I'll give you 60 seconds to let people know how to find you, what's coming up next. Do you have anything up your sleeve? What's happening in Ken Guzzo's life for the next few months?
Okay, well, I've been converting my clients to video, as a lot of hypnotists have. But I'm continuing to see clients using video. So I've just taught a class online and included teaching people how to do sessions over video instead of live. How to reach me? You can reach me. My toll-free number is 1-800-635-8150. That's my toll-free number. My main website is NorthAmericanAcademyOfHypnosis.com. And I've got a smoking cessation class coming up in August at HypnoThoughts in Las Vegas this August. And that is a complete business in a box. I don't just teach. I teach everything that I talked about today, not just the hypnosis, not just the Guzzo protocol, which is the neurological tapping process, but the marketing, the practice management, how to be 100% referral. You get my pre-talk video. You get my business forms. You get the music that I use. You get everything. It's a complete business in a box. And the best part about it is your first 5 clients will pay for all of it. And I'm going to show you how to have those 5 clients waiting for you the week of your return. So it is a business in boxes. Ask around. There's a lot of people who have taken the course, and they rave about it. So I feel very grateful for the people who have taken the course that spread the word. So thank you all for that. But it's coming up at HypnoThoughts in Las Vegas this August. There's only a few spots left. It's almost sold out. So you can go to Ken Guzzo, KenGuzzo, HTLive.com if you want to go directly there to hear about that course.
Awesome. Ken, I'm so happy that you wanted to kick this podcast off as my first guest. It was amazing to spend time with you, and I'm happy with it. You gave me some good information. I'm pretty sure the entire audience is thinking the same thing I am. This was awesome. So
I
thank
hope
you so
so.
much for being on the show.
Hey, and I thank you so much for your friendship, buddy. I love you, and I can't wait to see you again in person. Give you a non-social distanced hug.
I will do as Patrick Swayze did back in which movie was it? Ghost. I'll just say ditto. Love you back, buddy. So here's the thing, everybody. Thank you for watching or listening, no matter where you are out there in the big world. Join us for the next podcast we will have coming up. Follow the website, masteritthroughpassion.com, and get all the information. Sign up on our mailing list so you'll get advised when we actually have some new stuff coming up. Besides our podcast, we have all our amazing events. So I'm looking forward to see you out there. And this was all for now. Thank you so much for watching.